Hello. Ghana's fisheries sector is under threat. Fisherfolk in Ghana are harvesting more plastics than fish from the sea. There are also concerns about microplastics, which the fish consume, and the potential effect on human health. Today, we discuss the impact of marine plastic pollution on Ghana's fish stock, the livelihood of the fishing community, and the consumer's health. Welcome to Good Afternoon, Ghana. I'm Francisca Kakra-Forson. You can join this conversation via Metro News on Facebook, on Twitter, it's at Metro TVGH. On WhatsApp, you can send your messages to the number that will be displaying on your screen. Please do not call the number. We'll start off with a report on marine plastics pollution.
Waste infrastructure has failed to keep up with Ghana's economic growth, leaving its capital, Accra, drowning in plastic trash. Streets and waterways in Accra and other urban areas in Ghana are regularly inundated with single-use plastics, including shopping bags, pure water plastic bags, plastic takeaway food boxes, and water or soda bottles, amongst others. As demand for plastic rises, so do the significant emissions associated with the entire plastic life cycle. The problem of plastic pollution has grown so large, however, that no individual can make a real difference. It is a systematic problem with 1,000 different causes that must be addressed systematically. The only way to make a difference is to stop plastics from entering the ocean in the first place by stemming the flow at its source. This can only be achieved when plastic producers are held to account. Walking down any street in towns and cities or even in the villages, one can see plastics floating in rivers or blocking drains, with some of the waste ending up on the beaches. Since plastics in Ghana are not biodegradable, it takes many years for them to decompose. Fishermen at Tishi, like in many other fishing communities in Ghana, have been plagued by plastic waste.
Yep, I'm reporting live from the Sakomono beach in Accra on the 24th day of April, Saturday 2021, where we have the fisher folks coming right from fishing, where their net could not get even one tray of fish, but rather catching huge sums of plastics on their net, which can be seen here today, Saturday, on the 24th day of 2021. It is indeed a pity to see such a challenge that our fisher folks go through, where today they go to sea and they find nothing but plastics.
Plastic in our ocean affects creatures large and small, from seabirds, whales, and dolphins to tiny seahorses. Fish, seabirds, sea turtles, and marine mammals can become entangled in or ingest plastic debris, causing suffocation, starvation, and drowning. Ghana seems to be committed to tackling the plastics menace that has ballooned in recent years and triggered a myriad of environmental and public health challenges. In October 2019, under the leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana became the first African nation to join the Global Plastic Action Partnership, thus establishing the Ghana National Plastic Action Partnership. The Ghana NPAP serves as the national platform for multi-stakeholder cooperation towards achieving many of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, unless concrete action is taken as soon as possible to address this urgent problem, scientists predict that the weight of ocean plastics will exceed the combined weight of all the fish in the seas by 2050.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, I'll introduce my guests to you. Welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. I'll introduce my guests to you. Joining me for today's conversation is Ernest Morgan. He's the General Manager for the Metropolitan Waste and Allied Services. We'll also be joined by Jojo Solomon, who is the Executive Member for the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council, and Michael Arthur Dadzi, the Executive Director of the Fisheries Council. I'll go straight to Mr. Morgan. Mr. Ernest Morgan, good afternoon to you and thanks for coming by.
Good afternoon.
I hope you're well.
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. I'll start with some statistics that we saw in one of the UNDP's reports on sanitation that talks about only 2% of Ghana's plastic waste is recycled. And this is out of 1.7 million waste produced annually. And we understand that about 23% of that ends up in our water bodies. And that's why we are having today's conversation. Yeah. And this is being displayed on the screen so for the benefit of our viewers. But this is worrying. We know that we already have galamsey, which is destroying our water bodies. And now fishermen or fisherfolk are going to sea and coming back with plastics. Yeah. Where are we heading to?
Thank you very much, and I greet all your viewers. The issue of sanitation, I always say that it's a national security issue, but as a country, we are not taking it as such. So till we take it as a national security issue, I think we might see worse things than what we are.
Explain to us what you mean by sanitation being a national security issue.
What I mean is that when we look at the harm that improper waste management do cause us, we are heading towards, when COVID came, because we had the statistics of the number of deaths, everybody was afraid. We were all running over. There were, lockdown, and everybody was running because we took our time to know the number of deaths. We have not taken our time to know the number of deaths caused by improper waste management.
There's research to tell us that?
Yes, there's some that we are still doing. But when we check our sanitation, let's say from Kwame Nkrumah, all the presidents have been talking about sanitation. We are doing cleanup exercises and so many things. Those times we were in the area where when you gather your waste, you have an illegal dump site, then you go and put it there. If it is full, then we burn it. Or when you get a bulldozer, then you go and push it. Then we moved from that stage to a stage where we use communal containers. So you realize that at Vantage Point, we had communal containers that we put the waste in. That's also a stage. We've moved from that stage to another stage that we are pushing. And that is for each household to get a bin. The major problem of waste management, if we want to solve it, is for every household or every institution to get a receptacle to hold its waste. And that is where we are now. We have been preaching it, we have been pushing it, but it seems it has not gone down too well. And if, as we call it a waste, if we don't have something to hold it, it's a waste, you don't need it. So everybody would want to dispose it anyway, anyhow. So we have to have a conscious effort of disposing our waste properly. And the first step to that is to have a receptacle. For everybody
to have a household bin or a receptacle. I will get into that because that's the solution that has been proposed. But I want to understand first, how is it that, this plastic bottle I buy to drink water or a drink find its way? Because as far as I'm concerned, I probably would drop it in the bin somewhere.
Yes.
How has it found, or how have such plastics found their way in our water bodies?
It is because people have not accepted having the receptacle to hold their waste. And the next step after having the receptacle is segregation.
So that is it the waste disposers who are doing the dumping in the sea, or people living along the coasts who are doing that?
I would attribute it to everybody. You know, now there are so many things that are happening. And some people, when it rains, they put their waste in the gutters and it's washed to the sea. Some deliberately do that at night. Now we have influx of Abubuya. Some have joined the informal sector as a society, as an organization, and they are managed well. But they don't have any regulations. So anybody at all can go and buy Abubuya, then he gives it to whosoever that he wants. He goes, and you think they are picking the waste for you. They come to pick it in front of your house and they go and dump it behind your house. Sometimes you even on the motorway, nobody stays on the motorway, but sometimes you see on the motorway heaps of garbage there. Some of these Abubuya, those who are not regulated, they pick it and they don't have anywhere to take it. When they go to the transfer stations, they'll have to pay before they dump. So they'll wait at night and use the drains, they dump in it, sometimes by the shoulders of the road. So
which I have actually seen that, and I was driving, and the person driving by me said, we actually saw a Boboya, as you call it, you know, sort of skid off the road and everything, all the rubbish, the heap, everything turned upside down and fell. And the person was saying that he's just going to pick up the vehicle the and then go away. And he eventually he did.
That is
but this is the case where they have taken money from people that they're going to dispose of properly. That's the assumption, their rubbish.
Yes. So if we don't do something now, tomorrow it will be a problem, and if even you want to stop them, they will tell you that you have to pay them something before you stop them. You understand? And it's about time too that we disassociate sanitation issues from political issues. When you try to stop some of them, it will be like they are for the party A or party B. And these things are killing us.
These are the disposers.
Yes.
Those who dispose of
those who dispose and those who use the Abubuya.
I don't understand how politics comes into it.
What happens is that there are times that we've gone out to arrest some of them. And you know, some of these people that are using these Abubuya, anybody can buy it, and they have their own links. So the moment they fault and you want to take them on, there'll be a call. It's for this person or that person, and they would want to sort it out, quote and unquote.
Because the expectation rather would have been if the assembly is rather, you know, influencing the process of, you know, getting plastic or generally our waste out of our homes. But once there's political interference, as you are talking about, then that's a disaster in the offing.
Yes. And that is the cause of some of the things that we are seeing now. If we don't take a drastic decision now, it will be worse than what we are seeing.
Okay. Let me bring in our second guest. That's Mr. Jojo Solomon. He's the executive member for the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thanks for joining us. Hope you're well.
Very well.
We appreciate that you're here. We know that there were some difficulties, but thank you still for coming. From the point of view, or from the fisher folks' point of view, you listen to a number of interviews, and one thing they keep saying is that the more they go to sea, the more they return with plastics instead of fish. How can you verify this as from your background?
Yes, that is true, and it's a global truth as well. It's not peculiar to only Ghana, but that is the basic truth.
So it's essentially the dumping of plastics that's accounting for this.
It's plastics, but I don't know whether it's as a result of dumping.
Or however they find their way there, that's
exactly.
The problem.
I think now, when I was a child, everything we bought was in a paper bag, case we buy everything. what's in a paper bag, but now everything is plastic. We know plastic doesn't decompose. Yes, even now our fishermen embark on expeditions. We used to put these pig feet drums, fill it with water and cups, and then, but now everybody's buying pure water. The question is, where does the plastic end up, you understand? So, and it's a national crisis, it's a global crisis. It's not peculiar to only fishermen as well. If you look at all our refuse, you know, most of them find their way in gutters and streams and end up at the sea. And so it's not just the fishermen who are polluting, but the whole Ghana is polluting.
The whole Ghana is polluting,
Yes.
and for that reason, our fish,
but
we're not getting a lot of fish.
Yes, we are
from
directly
sea.
affected. You know, you understand? You know.
How does it affect their livelihoods? Because if the fisher folk entirely depends on going to sea, catching fish, coming to sell, and here's the case, you come back and your harvest instead is plastics. That means no money for the day. How are they dealing with this?
There's no other question about it. I mean, it has a negative toll or impact on our fishermen, you understand? And it's kind of difficult. So sometimes I wonder the role EPA, it's an environmental issue, basic. So for me, I still will lay it at the doorstep of EPA. That is all. I mean, there's nothing else I can say about it.
Before we get to EPA and also the assemblies, because all of them are involved in all of this, help me understand the value chain in the fisheries sector so that in order to understand how this is affecting the livelihoods, I want to know beyond the fisherman or the fisherwoman who goes directly to sea and brings the fish back. What's the next level? What happens from there? Are they
the value chain?
Yes, the
yes,
value
we
chain.
We have people who buy directly from the fishermen for consumption, or the fishmongers for consumption. We have we have processors and traders as well. Those who fry, those who smoke, those who salt, you name them. And there are a lot of people along the processors along the value chain, and therefore they are all affected. Besides, in every fishing community, the socio-economic activities are all bordered around the industry. And therefore, if the industry goes down, it goes down with everybody. Hairdressers, drivers, tailors, you name them. Drinking bars, you know, everything. All commercial activities come to a halt. And therefore, it's, you know, it has also a national security implication as well.
What's the average earnings for an average fisher folk?
Earnings?
Yes. Maybe a rough estimation.
For me, I cannot, especially looking at the depletion of our fish stocks nowadays. I can really not.
It's hard to say.
Yes, but at least it's within a manageable, you know, that every household is able to feed, you know, itself, and therefore I believe that, you know, where we are heading for now is kind of, you know, a dangerous economic matter.
So as far as the plastics in our water bodies is concerned, and so that if the fisher folk went to sea and brought back plastics, where are the fish then?
That is for our scientists to determine. The fisherman doesn't know what is happening underwater. I mean, we don't have divers, we are not scientists, but definitely the fish is not there and the plastic is there. And one thing we know for sure, that the plastics have gone to replace the fish.
Would you have an answer to that, Mr. Morgan? Where are the fish?
Basically, you see, the fish, they are supposed to be in the sea. That's where we know they are. But I think they have been overtaken by the plastic. So either they will go far or they are being killed. Well, I don't have the facts, but they are being taken over, you understand, by the plastics. So now when you want to fish, probably you get the plastic, because they are closer in the sea than the fish.
He touched on the fact that the plastics do not decompose, or they are not biodegradable. I came across some research that suggested that the fish also consume some of these sort of debris or little microplastics. Is there any health concern there?
Yes.
If we are also going to consume some of this fish?
Plastic decompose, but it takes a longer time, some even 500 years.
Whoa.
Yes, so it takes a very long time to see plastics.
At least not in our lifetime.
Yes,
Exactly.
you have grades of plastic and the number of years that it takes to decompose, but it's a longer, that's why most people will say that they don't, but it does. And with the sea to, the question that you asked us in the fish consuming plastics.
Should we be worried that...
We should, because the plastics should not end up in the sea. And if they do consume, I don't know that, it wouldn't be the quantities that we are putting in there.
What does that mean?
What it means is that disposing of plastics is not supposed to be in the sea. For somebody to have the excuse that the fishes, they consume plastics, so when we put them in the sea, then it becomes right. No.
Okay. Do you want to touch on that, the bit about...
For me, it's dangerous. You know, I simply put, it's dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing that, I think the Fisheries Scientific Survey Department, as the FSSD, have also come up with some plastics, and it's a bit worrisome. And then, now that our water bodies are also being polluted as a result of this galamsey thing, you find heavy metal and mercury, and they all end up in our waters. In the advanced countries, for me, I know that the question is, even with our factories, the question is that the toxic waste, the water, the byproduct, where does it end up? Do we have a mechanism or an arrangement where these are collected in maybe some heavily guarded tanks and disposed of or they all end up in the sea? That is the question. You understand? So for me,
how bad is the depletion of our fish stock?
It's very bad.
Because the research I hit on said this started happening in the 90s, and
exactly.
It's getting worse by the years.
And it's like we are not being proactive, and therefore, there's this prediction by our scientists that come the end of 2020, that's last year, Ghana's fish stock will be totally depleted, and it is telling our fisheries.
That's possible. That's likely to happen.
We are there. It's not that it's possible. We are there.
Wow. And so how do we maybe halt the pollution and reverse the depletion?
Like we're saying, if the food doesn't change its mind. So all the agencies, including, we are all in it together. It's a shared responsibility. Fishermen will have to, look at, how we dispose of these pure water plastics, and you name them, how do we dispose of them? So there must be a serious and intensive education along our coastal lines for our fisher folks. Again, the Ghanaian populace should also have a second look at how plastics are disposed of, and the agencies, like the EPA, the Ministry of Trade, and name them, they should all put their hands on deck and then find a lasting solution to this plastic menace. Otherwise,
this is a matter that the council has complained. I'm using the word, with a quote on it, but complained about severally.
Severally, yes.
Have you lost hope? Has the time come where you throw
I
your
think
hands
once
up?
we are not dead, the question of losing hope is, But what I'm saying is that we are still not even seeing the agencies who are supposed to do, this sanitation, within the country.
Very well.
They're not working.
Let's talk about a project in 2019, which Ghana was lauded as being one of the first, if not the first, African country to join. So this was the National Plastic Management Policy, which was launched in 2019, and this forms part of the Global Plastic Action Partnership. So when we hear things like this, we have a fanfare, we have a nice conversation about, oh, this would mean X, Y, Z. But then years down the line, we come back to the same problem. You know, and the conversation about plastics is at its highest soon after a flooding, maybe in Accra or wherever. We talk about it and then we go to bed and then we announce these projects and we don't really see what happens thereafter. Any idea why? And I'm asking you because you're part of the solution.
Yes.
And so I'm interrogating if the solution that is being provided, not just for your organization, but is really targeted at the problem, the core of the problem.
You see, the issue of the plastics, as you are mentioning, and all of us making noise about it, then we leave it. That's why initially I mentioned that it's a national security issue. Till we take it as a national security issue, it will always happen like that. When it comes, everybody talks about it, we all make noise about it, then we leave it. But I think what we saw 2-3 days ago should be a big blow to us. And if we don't take care, when it starts raining, we will see something worse than what we are seeing now. When these things are launched and they make noise about it, now it's all hands on deck. So the media too would plead that when things like these are launched, let's find out how is it going. We just don't have to leave it like that. Because the fanfare is so nice, and we all join in the fanfare. But after, what happens?
I like the way you rope in the media.
Yes, because now the issue that is coming up, it's not just for one sector to handle.
Yes.
So you have the forum to ask questions, to go to knock on so many doors and find out what is happening. So whatever results that you get, whatever information that you get after fanfares and after making noise about a product or whatever it is, then that one also comes out. Tomorrow when somebody is coming up with anything, you will know that no, there's a time for evaluation.
I agree with you, and I'm sure that's why we are having this conversation, and I'm sure other subsequent bulletins, there will be stories of the sort. There was a report that we played. But there's a certain reality of the limitation of our power as media, and that is why there are state institutions which, you know, are paid with the taxpayers' money. They have a legal obligation backed by acts and what have you to do X, Y, Z. Once in a while, you would hear the AMA or some other assembly coming to, you know, sanction people for breaching or breaking sanitation laws. I want to find out from you how much collaboration you get or how much collaboration there is in the work that you do and in the attempt to rid this country or our cities of the filth, and particularly the plastic filth.
The collaboration, we do get so much collaboration from so many agencies. And for the district assemblies, you know, they have we are service providers. They have the power, they have the mandate. But when we talk about enforcement, that is where we have a little bit of a challenge. The enforcement bit is a little bit low until we hammer on that and see to it that we are enforcing the right sanitation laws. These things would happen. I don't want us to even get into what the plastics are doing in the sea or the harm that it will cause, all those ones. We can put that on hold. And let's check if households are managing their waste well. I know the fisher folks they have something to do with the plastics getting into the sea. But the majority of the waste that finds itself in the sea is from the various households. How did it get in there? And the assemblies that we have, they know that every household is supposed to manage its waste, have a receptacle to hold your waste, get a service provider to come and pick your waste. So if we are let's say we talk about Koleklote, and we get to Osu Beach, and there are so many plastics. The assembly should find out from homes if they have something to hold their waste. If they don't have, then it means they are contributing to the waste that we find in the sea. And from there, action should be taken. If we do it like that, now we are building so many recycling plants. When we act on this well and we use the recycling plant, these issues will not come. We don't have to wait for the problem to hit us, then we start finding how to solve it. The solution is there already. Let's hold our waste well. Let's take it to the proper site, and everybody will be free.
Let me interrogate the household management, where the proposal is that if every household had a bin, great initiative, but looking at this initiative against a certain reality called poverty, I've actually seen a news report where people received free bins and rather used the bins to collect water because they didn't have money to buy containers to hold their water, and found it's rather a better option to use the bins to hold water than actually, store away their bins. How is that solution going to be managed, or is being managed against the reality of poverty?
Because we are not doing the enforcement bit, everybody will attach poverty to it. Somebody who was unable to hold his waste and threw it, and I think about 3-4 months ago, was taken to the Okankwe North Sanitation Court. The person was fined. The person was not able to pay 30 Ghana cedis for waste a month. But the person was fined 800 cedis, and he was able to pay because he didn't want to go to jail.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So the person could pay the fine.
Yes.
For
about
fear of
800 Ghana cedis. He was able to pay. But to pay 30 cedis a month for the service provider to come for your waste, he said no, because if he doesn't opt for that, he is free. There's nothing that will be done.
So it is enforcement that will kill.
Enforcement.
But there's also, we can't, in order not to generalize, there are people who probably will not be able to even pay the fine.
You see, in waste management, the truth about it is that when you are paying for waste, always the rich pays for the poor. We have franchise areas, and it is the assemblies that set out the amount, the rate to be paid. So if we pick 240-liter bin in East Legon, and we are charging 100 cedis, when you come to a place like, let's say, Jamestown, the same 140 liters will not cost 100 cedis. It will be like 25 or 30 cedis.
But that's still expensive.
It is not. Go to the hospital and just check consultation fee.
But at least that's why there's to some extent free health care on the national health insurance for those who cannot afford it.
Even that, the government is incurring cost. It is free for the individual, but there is a cost component to it.
Because what I foresee really is that the biggest challenge with enforcement, or the biggest challenge with disposing of waste, will be those who cannot afford it. Those who cannot afford it. That is why
the rate disposal is not the same. They look at the environment, those who stay within there, and even there are places that we don't give them we give them the smaller bin, and they have, they do what we call pay as you dump. Then we put the bigger container there. As they dump, they pay, and it is regulated. There are places that we can give them trash bags, not the bins, so that they use the trash bags. And everybody should know that waste, when you are doing waste, you have to pay for the waste. It is something that people have not accepted until we accept.
There are no cheaper alternatives.
What are the cheaper alternatives? Now we have a sanitation levy that is coming up. When that thing goes on well and the state is paying for it, then we can look at other alternatives. But for now, because the service providers too, they buy fuel, they buy trucks, and they need to pay their staff. So it cannot be free from the service, because they are also private entities, you understand? But what they are doing to help everybody is that looking at the area that you stay. That's how come we charge. And there are areas that are paying over 100 cedis for a bin, and the same size of bin is being paid less at some areas.
Because that doesn't appear to be solving the problem with the rich paying for the poor approach.
It is, but because of the enforcement bit, if you don't do it, what happens to you?
Nothing. How much of a problem is the lax in enforcement for those of you with the solutions?
Let me get that again.
So that how much of a problem is the lack of enforcement, if I should say, a problem for those of you with the solution?
That's why we are seeing all that we are seeing. This marine issue and other things. It is because we are not enforcing some. Now, everybody would tilt the eye towards the marine issue, and they are dumping in the sea, there are plastics in the sea. How do we solve it? We are not getting fish. We are not. But the problem could have been stopped if we had handled the household waste properly. It wouldn't have ended up in the sea. So when it is enforced in there, we will not come and sit and talk about pollution in the marine bodies.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Solomon. Mr. Solomon, so for the fishing communities or for the fisherfolk, what kind of education do they need to understand some of these things that are going on? At least on their part.
Like you rightly said, I mean, we are part of the problem, but we are not totally the problem. You understand? So definitely we will have to do, an in-depth sensitization of our people to maybe go back using the drums where they can fetch water out of, so that the likelihood of these pure water plastics landing in our seas or marine waters will end, or will at least be minimized. But for me, I think it is just negligence of the responsible agencies, or the agencies who are tasked or mandated to ensure that our country is free of filth. You understand? I remember as far back as early 80s in London, I realized that almost every community there were skips where to tell you to put plastic bottles in this, even by colors. And so how many years down the road, and the world is now a global village. Why can't we adopt some of these things? So many years. And then even during Kwame Nkrumah's time, when I was a kid, I knew about these papa tankers, and you dare not leave filth behind your window or door or anything. You understand? So many years down the line, with even these people having better titles and names like environmental officers, not papa tankers and everything, we are not even seeing anything at all.
It comes back to...
You understand?
Yeah.
So for me, I believe that you go to the district assemblies and you see most of the sanitation employees hanging around the assembly. They should go to the field. You understand? They should go to the field. I mean, honestly, for me, what I'm saying is there's a shared responsibility. We are all creating the field. You understand? And then we should be mindful of how we dispose of the field. But over and above all, there are agencies, Zoom Lion, there's environmental, there's EPA. They should ensure that this filth generated by individuals and households end up at the right place.
Okay. At this point, I would like us to take a break. When we come back, we'll go straight to one of the fishing communities and bring you live scenes from there. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. Let's cross over to my colleague Derek Adote, who is at one of the fishing communities with live visuals. Derek, over to you. Okay, we're having difficulties in bringing Derek on. If we do have time and if we're able to bring him, that'll be fine. But I want us to start wrapping up our conversation and looking at the solution. We've done the National Plastic Management Policy. We've had all these conversations. The council, for instance, has complained several times, has talked about this problem several. I think the last I remember was in 2018. Yes, when we've heard the fishermen also talk about how they are going to sea and bringing nothing. So what will happen then? Will they stop going to sea?
No, I mean, that's a livelihood issue, and therefore we cannot say that, because sometimes it's not as if we always bring plastics, you understand, but like he said, plastic is overtaking fish in our waters.
But because it's deteriorating.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to be more proactive
than
bringing NADMO at the end of the day. It will help.
Okay. Let's touch base with Derek Adote. Hello, Derek. Over to you.
We are here at one of the beaches in Jamestown, and as you can see in your shot, the fishermen are going about their daily business, mending their net after going fishing. And one of the worrying trends of things you could see here at the beach side is the refuse and plastics that have been gathered ashore, or that has been captured in the nets of the fisher folks. And so, as you can see in your shot right now, you can see that there are a lot of plastics, there are a lot of polythene bags, there are a lot of coconut husks, and all manner of refuse here at the beach. And we ask ourselves this issue: what does it pose? What danger does this pose to the workers here, the fishermen here, and also the life in the waters? And so let's get closer to some of the fisher folks here who are working, and to speak to them about how this particular problem affects the work that they do. And so I've been joined here by one of the fishermen. Charlie, your name?
My name is Samuel Saki.
Okay, Samuel Saki. Tell us, how does this particular issue, these plastics that you encounter daily in the waters, affect the worker you do?
Okay, that's why I want to talk to where I go fishing. Before because rubber, where this or inside the water, where now we not go get fishing. So the back, other the government make a gun help us. That's why make it go catch fish. That's why.
So when you go out there, do you catch some of these bottles in your net?
Yes. Catch bottles to take away rubbers. Take
okay.
Rubber where you do now, where you take come here.
Yes. So he's saying that all the plastic bags that we showed you in our feed, they are the ones who bring them from the sea in their nets, and they come and remove them, and then you can see that they are gathered all over the beach. And so when they go out for fishing, what they actually catch are plastics. Let's speak to some other fishermen here at the Jamestown beach and then ask them how this also affects them. Pacho Udin.
Somewhere.
Pacho, also we are Juma Waha. Yabisa say plastics here. Ewahano. How does it affect you?
There you beg me. I consume when I to offer near ye at watching. No, so I am the man, Yabada, or by young Rena or daddy. Use my little consume. Now I have fine.
And T. Udugunsium was any will be best with you.
About to own, sorry. Wabana, best say, crowns, sorry.
Na ese innamne nyoma na mukwache no mutumi nya bi
Balestan ziza yekwa nya bi le first yekwa nya bi le first yekwa gekre ne elaba nti aban ma nya so ayekwa na ya bre.
And at some point, there was something he said that made you laugh. I'll start with you, Mr. Solomon.
He puts it back in the water, so I mean that. He says
yes, and that brought the conversation about education.
Exactly.
Because they are finding the plastics and putting them back. I'll take a few messages and then I'll take your concluding remarks, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Kakra and the panelists. I can wait for you to end this program and I can't wait for you to end this program, rather. And my contribution to this insecurity challenge, like the Galamsey miners, is that the president must issue a decree just like that of the coronavirus lockdown. This is Daniel Ejay from Powerland in Adenta. Mohammed Amin in Tamale sent this. Good afternoon to you, Francisca, and your hard-working panels. I'm really enjoying the presentation of your program. Okay. Peter Kojonyame says, if I'm not mistaken, some years ago, the government said plastic manufacturing companies were to add some additives in their manufacturing process that will help the plastics to decompose. I want to find out how this policy is being enforced. Did any of you have any information on that? If not, let's take your Mr. Ernest Morgan Aqua. That's the correction, and thank you for that. My producer is in trouble with me on that, but your name is Ernest Morgan Aqua. So I'll take your concluding remarks, and then I'll go to Mr. Solomon.
Okay. So what I would say is that some years ago, about 8 years ago, we had this, I think 8 years ago, we had this company known as the Eco Brigade.
Yes.
They were in charge of the coastal line, and they were making sure that they always keep the place clean. At a point in time, they had to end their project. So this is a good time for them to come back. And also for us to have good education for the fisher folks. Okay. When you check the guy who came in, he was like, when the rubber gets back into the sea, it would decompose at the base. Yes, but that is not what happens. You understand? So we have to do something to ensure that these plastics do not end up in the sea, and also to have it as a national security issue. The seriousness that we attach to COVID and the seriousness that the police attach to those who drive on the shoulders of the road and traffic offenders, they should attach that same seriousness to waste management in the country. Very well. And we'll all be fine.
Very well. Mr. Solomon.
Yes. Like we're saying, you see, in as much as we're saying that it is a national security issue, it is also a job security issue and a food security issue as well. And like we're saying, we should allow the laws to have teeth to bite. It should start biting from the authorities. Okay. Those under whose watch and negligence all these things are happening. You understand? And then I also appeal to the civil society groups and NGOs that work with fishers, you know, along the coast, to also channel some of their funds into capacity building so that we can embark on, you know, a massive and intensive education, because this is a serious matter. Indeed it is. Yes. Thank you very much. You're most welcome.
That's Mr. Jojo Solomon, Executive Member of the Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Council. Also, Ernest Morgan Aqua is the General Manager of Metropolitan Waste and Allied Services. Unfortunately, Michael Arthur Dazi, the Executive Director of the Fisheries Council, could not make it. But this has been your show, Good Afternoon Ghana. Just before we go, congratulations to Deputy Director in charge of Monitoring and Inspection Unit, also the Chairperson of Police Ladies FC, that's ACP Yako Donko. She has been appointed as the Chairperson of the Safety and Security Committee of the Greater Accra Region Football Association. Congratulations to you, ACP. Thank you for your time here on Good Afternoon Ghana. My name is Francisca Kakra Forson.